that we are recording, and then I'm going to get going. Fantastic. We are ready to roll. Okay, everyone. So welcome. Thank you for joining us here this evening. My name is Stacy Bissonette with the Office of Student Involvement, and I am thrilled to be here with you all as we explore the Leads Conference topic of transforming passion into profession, growing a career in community service. Becca Lazinsk from the Office of Alumni Engagement is also joining me in facilitating this session. Before we have the pleasure of introducing you to your panelists for the session, we would like to review a few housekeeping items for you all. Becca, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide, or maybe 2 slides. Thank you so much. Here you will see SNHU's access and accommodation information, which serves as a reminder of resources available for our community members. Additionally, Teams does have some great accessibility functions, so we want to go over those with you. There's live captioning. Please find the More button on your Microsoft Teams navigation bar, select Language and Speech, and then select Show Live Captions. And then you can also magnify the sharing slides, so you want to navigate to the bottom left of the window where you see the slide shared and select the plus or minus icons there. Okay, we're now going to move on to the next slide where we're just going to go over a few housekeeping items.
Thanks. Hi, everyone. So I just want to share a few housekeeping items, what you can expect tonight. Your microphone and camera are not enabled at this time. Your microphone will remain muted to reduce background noise. The chat will be available during the presentation, which you are welcome and encouraged to engage with. However, we encourage you to hold your questions until the end. There will be time for Q&A, as the presenters will not necessarily be monitoring the chat as they present. We ask that you be kind. We are all here to have fun, to learn, engage, and be with community. Please do not photograph, screenshot, or record anyone in attendance. We ask that you also refrain from sharing any offensive content or using inappropriate language. Thank you for your cooperation. And as we mentioned earlier, this webinar is being recorded. There is no obligation to use the chat, your camera, or your microphone for participation in this session.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Becca. Okay, so it is now my pleasure to introduce to you all Matt Sharp. So Matt is a highly relational nonprofit consultant with a deep-rooted passion for empowering organizations to achieve greater impact in their communities. He has 18 years of experience in the nonprofit and higher education sectors. He is the founder of Sharp Advising, a consulting firm for nonprofit organizations, and he is an engaged SNHU alumni, which includes hosting regional events and leading SNHU Global Days of Service projects. And with that, I would now like to turn the floor over to Matt Sharp. It's all you, Matt.
Great. Thank you so much, Stacy. Thank you all for being here tonight virtually from wherever you're coming from. We're so excited to have you here. This is a great topic, which I am personally interested in, as I am, as you'll see, a nonprofit and higher education professional with 18 years of experience. Also a proud SNHU alum of 04 and 06. So I'm excited to be here tonight to discuss a topic that somewhat I wish I had known about more when I was going through my undergrad experience and wish I'd known that it was a career choice that I could have made earlier. My bachelor's is in hotel resort management. I got my MBA, and then I went on to higher education, right? And then I went to the nonprofit world, and now I'm a consultant. So my path was varied, and I'll share a little bit more about that later. So this topic tonight of discovering what it could look like to have a career in the community service is important to me. And certainly I know to our panelists, we have 3 amazing panelists on the panel tonight. I'm excited to introduce them in 1 second. Before I do that, though, I just want to reiterate I would call them the housekeeping engagement areas. I want interaction. this is a conversation tonight. This is going to be a fun, active time where you're going to hear some amazing content from our panelists, but would love to get some reactions from you. We can't see your faces, but we can see the reactions on Microsoft Teams. You'll see the react button and also the chat feature. Certainly throw in comments if you liked what you heard. Throw that out there for the panelists to hear, and certainly ask those questions as you move forward so that we can answer anything that we may have missed. So without further ado, certainly want to jump into why you're all here tonight is to hear from some amazing panelists. I'm going to start with some introductions that I have to introduce, and then I want to hear from the panelists as well, and they're going to share a little bit more about themselves. So first off, Allie Snell is a 09 graduate. Allie is a connector, community builder, and program management professional with over 15 years of experience directing higher education, government, nonprofit departments. She served in multiple roles with the Corporation for National and Community Service and the Peace Corps. She has a strong commitment to developing community and expanding services to new constituents. And she currently serves in the role of Community Partnerships Manager at the Nature Conservancy. So thank you, Allie, for being here tonight. Next up, we have Daryl. Daryl is a visionary leader, strategist, and social impact architect committed to driving meaningful change. He's the founder and executive director of The Path, an agent for change incorporated, leading initiatives that empower underserved communities through advocacy, education, and systematic reform. He's a reverend, a father, and a mentor, and he's deeply committed to helping others transform their passion into sustainable service-based careers. And he's also the second place winner in the National Society of Leadership and Successes United by Purpose Grant. So thank you, Daryl, for being here tonight. And lastly, Aaron Dupuis. Aaron is passionate about rural development, student success, workforce development, and community engagement. Currently the Director of Community Impact at Campus Compact for New Hampshire. He's actively engaged in his local community through service and leadership on several boards, including the SNHU Alumni Association, Stay Work Play, and Volunteer New Hampshire. He leads SNHU Global Days of Service projects in the local community since 2019. So Aaron, thank you for being here as well. So now you know a little bit about them from what I see, what you see here on screens, but now it's time to hear from them. So I would love to start to throw it open to all the panelists. Allie, we'll start with you to maybe start and share a little bit more that wasn't shared on screen. So what's your current role, where you live, your career journey, your relationship with SNHU? Would love to hear a little bit more about you, maybe about 3 minutes per panelist, and we'll get started.
Great, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Awesome, thank you so much. Good evening and good morning to some of you. Thank you so much for having me here. This is just such an honor and opportunity to speak with you all. I, like many of you who are here, I had big dreams as a kid. I grew up actually really close to SNHU's original campus in Goffstown, New Hampshire, and I always wanted to travel and serve and experience the world, but did not come from a lot of means. And so I like to say that it was actually service that has given me my career. It's given me more opportunities than I probably deserved in some contexts. And I just, have been so fortunate to have participated in so many programs that have given me these opportunities to travel. So I grew up in Southern New Hampshire. I went to school in the Midwest for undergrad and worked first as an AmeriCorps Vista volunteer for the Eastern Agency of the Navajo Nation in Western New Mexico. I was a volunteer park ranger in Glacier National Park with AmeriCorps out in Montana. I was later a Peace Corps volunteer in Guatemala, working on economic development projects, and was fortunate enough to come back home and go to an amazing graduate program at Southern New Hampshire University. At the time, the School of International Community Economic Development. And this is a really unique program for my international friends who are on the call. The majority of my classmates were active nonprofit professionals from all over the world. I was only one of 3 Americans in the program. Most of my colleagues had at least 10 years of experience or more. And so it was an amazing opportunity. I think SNHU has always kind of been at the forefront of really innovative programs. So in the early 2000s, this to offer a hybrid international economic development program was really something special. And I would say the majority of my career has been working in government service and the nonprofit sector, with a nice stint working for Southern New Hampshire University in the alumni program. So this is kind of bringing me back home. I was a part of some of the earlier days of the Leeds conferences about 6-7 years ago, and later our international programs office at SNHU. So where has service brought me? It's brought me all over the world, but it's really given me the perspective of a young girl who grew up without a lot of opportunity in Southern New Hampshire to really be able to experience the world and understand and deepen my understanding of so many different communities, cultures, ways of being and doing. I think that I wouldn't be the person I was today if it weren't for all of the service opportunities that I've been so privileged to participate in. And I'm here to say that there are so many different opportunities out there that would fit just about anybody in any point in their career. Short-term, long-term opportunities to work abroad, to work in your hometown. And if we have time at the end to say, I'm happy to post some links. I'm very lucky because I have been able to find what has been a dream job. I work for the Nature Conservancy, which is a large global nonprofit dedicated to protecting the land and water on which all people depend. It's one of the oldest and largest conservation nonprofits in the world. And my job has brought me full circle back to my home community in the Merrimack River Valley of New Hampshire, where I am working with communities in my home area to develop sustainable environmental justice plans, community-centered conservation work, and working on all different kinds of making sure that communities are fully represented in projects that address climate change and natural disasters. So it has been the privilege of my career to be able to have had all these experiences, but I think anyone who's really worked in service, I've lived all over the US, I've lived all over Latin America, but I think the greatest privilege has been able to actually be of service to my home. So I'm very lucky to have been able to come full circle and to be able to return home to New Hampshire and give back in a way that has really been meaningful to me. So yeah, happy to answer any questions.
Love it. Thanks for that, Allie. And I'm excited to hear more about your story as we continue down this panel. So thank you for sharing. Daryl, you're up next to share a little bit about yourself, about your current role, where you live, your career journey, your relationship with SNHU. Would love to start it off.
All right. Well, first off, good evening, everyone, or good morning. I'm very excited to be here this evening. I absolutely did not color code this blazer and this t-shirt with the school colors. I had this on all day. So don't think that I try to get brownie points for the panel. It just so happened, things flowed that way. But I am excited to say that I am from Atlanta, Georgia. I started a nonprofit called The Path, an Agent of Change in 2021 from my master's in psychology program, where I was studying preeclampsia research in African American women. And I was able to find that racism was a potential correlation for stress, leading to hypertension, leading to potential preeclampsia. That research, I had a professor at SNHU who read that paper, gave me 100 on it, and said, "This is absolutely amazing." And at the same time, I had got inducted into the National Society of Leadership and Success. Um, my professor had knew my chapter leader and was like, "Hey, you guys got this grant coming up. Look at this paper." And I applied for the grant, won second place, was given some seed funding, was able to speak with President Obama. And from there, been doing work now internationally with now of 2025 have a project in Toronto, or the Jane and Finch community, the Afro-Caribbean community, working with a university up there. So things have been well. It's been a rocky road, but things have been well. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm a father. Want to give a shout out to my daughter Jessica, my daughter Nadia, and my son Ira. My prince and princesses, love y'all to death. Thank y'all.
Daryl, thank you so much for sharing, and what great work that you're doing, and being able to take a dream of yours, a passion of yours, and put it into action with starting a nonprofit. So thank you for the work you're doing, and excited to hear about your story as well as we go forward. Aaron, you're up next.
Hello. Thank you, Daryl, for that important work. And Allie and I have a lot of similar background pieces. I grew up in the northern part of New Hampshire, up in the mountains, and have had a similar kind of full circle moment with my current career. But I currently live on the seacoast of New Hampshire. I've bumped all around the state and lived in many parts of it. And service has always just been something that is something that my parents modeled. Both my brothers and my dad were in military service. My dad started a local service organization up in my hometown, and so service has just always been something that has been shown to me and been part of my life. And so, I'm not surprised at all to find myself, continuing to do different service pieces. After graduation from my undergrad, I was kind of seeking my next opportunity, and I found that in an AmeriCorps service year in my hometown at White Mountains Community College. The program was run by my current employer, which, testing my knowledge, we just switched our brand. So we're now the Education Alliance for New Hampshire. And so did my service year, really got inspired to work in higher education. And so after my service year, was hired on as a staff member, made the big move 2 hours south to our largest city in New Hampshire, and have been at Campus Compact, now Education Alliance, for almost 7 years. So apparently I must like what we do. But basically we're a consortium of all of the colleges and universities in the state, and we do a lot of work with our K-12 schools statewide to promote college access, workforce development, kind of pathways to whatever your post-secondary option might be. And I really find a lot of value in this work because I get to serve the community that raised me. And so it's a really just wonderful and important work, especially as there's a lot of attacks on public education and higher education. And so I really find a lot of value in continuing to support these communities that really need it. And then my relationship to SNHU, I currently serve as the president of the SNHU Alumni Association. It is a really fun opportunity. I love being able to connect with so many incredible alumni. And we're currently at over, I think it's like 270,000 alumni globally. So it's a really wonderful community to be a part of. And yeah, that's just a little bit more about me.
Excellent, Aaron. Thank you so much. Excited to again hear more about your story as we continue. So before I hit the panelists with their first hard-hitting question, so you can take your drinks and relax for a second, let me just share for the guests, the participants here, a little bit about me. You saw a few bullet points of my story, but just so you know a little bit more about me and why I am moderating, right? I think it's important for you to know the moderator as well. Grew up in Vermont, so I'm from Vermont. I went to on-campus SNHU in Hooksett, Manchester, New Hampshire, back in 2004, and then in 2006 for my undergrad and bachelor's, in hotel resort management, as I mentioned, and then MBA. And then I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, and started working in higher education. So I worked for 11 years in student affairs, student development, events and activities, really loving what I did, loving student development aspect, but knowing that there was something a little bit different, a little bit more that I was being called to. And so in 2017, decided to make the move away from higher education, and the heartstrings were pulled towards a nonprofit that focused on health and wellness for underserved communities through the sport of running. And so literally we ran with our team members. We had social services, we had case management, really just to help provide that full service package of different things that they might need, help them grow into self-sustainability. And so love doing that as the COO, as the chief operating officer for 6 years. But after a bit of time, decided that maybe there was more, that maybe I want to impact some more nonprofits with the skill set that I had. And so back in 2023 of February, I started my own consulting business, Sharp Advising. And so now I focus on small to mid-sized nonprofits, helping them with their operations and their strategy. As maybe the panelists can talk about later on, or have felt the pain, and maybe you in the audience tonight have felt the pain of founders and nonprofits that are very visionary leaders. They're passionate about what they do, but sometimes the back end, the operations, the structure, the systems aren't always there. And so I can come in and help with systems and processes to help provide more time and capacity for the leaders, for the frontline individuals to do the great work that they need to be doing without having the stress and burden of thinking about all those other little things, right? So that plus strategy is what I do, and I've been doing it for more than 2 years now. Love it. Love working with nonprofits and just helping them realize their mission. Essentially, that's what it's all about, is helping organizations maximize what they do. So again, I'm really excited to be here tonight. And so I look back at the panelists. Many of you have already somewhat talked about your inspiration, what inspired you to start. So feel free to answer that question again or build on that. But I'm also wanting you to share for those individuals in the audience that are not in the nonprofit community sector right now. They may be working for a for-profit company that are thinking about it. What would it look like? What does that transition look like, right? So what inspired you to jump into, whether starting or jump into the nonprofit? And then what was the transition like to go into the world of nonprofit community service if you didn't have that background already? So Aaron, why don't we start with you first?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So, I think I fell into this work by accident. Again, service was always a part of my life, but I was a psych major. I did an internship in the United States Senate. I was like really focused on politics and that industry, and then really kind of fell in love with higher education and the power that that unlocks for everyone. And so through that service year, that's what really kind of inspired me to continue going, and seeing the impact that our federal grant programs have on students' lives, and especially being in my hometown, seeing the impact on my cousin's child, like people that I grew up with, and being able to support the teachers that taught me. And so that's really what kind of springboarded me to stay with the organization. And so, I don't regret it at all. I love the work that we do, and that I think is the special part of being in a nonprofit, and in this on the service side of things. Our main goal is just to serve our community and to help make it a better place. And not saying that you can't do that, with a for-profit, but I think the real impact that you can have, even if it's small, is really what keeps me going, and I think what keeps a lot of people going in the nonprofit world. So if you're thinking about switching, I would say go for it. I mean, yes, make less money and like all of those things, but I think your life is much richer and fuller because of the work that you're able to do being in a nonprofit.
Aaron, thanks. Love it. Daryl, what about yourself?
Aaron is 100% correct about the low wage, but the purpose driven, the altruism, the opportunity to go home knowing that you did something good that day. That's what the nonprofit sector has to offer. So I have to piggyback on you, Aaron. However, I didn't start a nonprofit. I had got a grant for an event, went to the event, realized that $5,000 is not going to be enough to save people from preeclampsia. And so with that event, I had started a fundraiser, and a gentleman there had suggested starting a nonprofit. Um, that's when I went down the dark road of the nonprofit road, where I found out about um, the lack of altruism in the nonprofit sector, which was one of the most valuable lessons that helped me start my nonprofit. That's why my website, if you type my website in, it's an anger statement to all the other organizations that want to remain socially relevant by continuing the problem and band-aiding it and band-aiding it and keep saying, oh, we're going to end it, but you keep band-aiding it. So I started my nonprofit out of anger. It was righteous anger. However, it has evolved into something more intellectual, more philosophical, and then evolved into something that is more community based and more communal, to where people are gravitating to love rather than rage. And so, yeah, that's it. Still didn't match, but I'm matching this background.
I mean, I'm loving the blazer, so whether you're matching or not, you're looking good. Thanks for that, Daryl. Appreciate it. Allie, what about yourself?
I really appreciate what you said, Daryl, a lot. I think that something that I was thinking about when my colleagues were talking here, is that you don't think that your work in service to others has to be firmly in the nonprofit sector. The majority of my career has actually been in the federal government, to some extent in higher ed. I think I've actually been in the nonprofit sector for the least amount of all of these things. And for me, that catalyst, that moment, and like Aaron, I grew up in a family of public servants, of like lifelong volunteers. My grandparents, especially, just always volunteering. And I was really fortunate to, in college, actually enroll in tribal college for a summer program that had non-tribal students like myself working with tribal students in northern Wisconsin. And I actually went to college for anthropology and archaeology and thought that's what I was going to do. And I really loved school, but I felt that it was all in service of me and my goals. And when I had the summer to, do that work, and I got a lot of direct action, grassroots activism experience, and, was there alongside my classmates and friends, protesting some of the, really problematic mining operations happening in that area. It really opened my eyes to so much of the world that I didn't realize, that I got an education that I never would have gotten anywhere else. And it made me realize that I can take what I've been given, all these privileges, all these opportunities, and just put it towards the greatest use for others. And so that's really been the driving theme in my career. And sometimes that's in the nonprofit sector, sometimes it's in others. So I would say, if you have a North Star that really drives you, and for me, it was to some extent a righteous anger, like what Daryl described, of not knowing what I had later learned, and, my complicity in a lot of things. So really wanting to be driving towards being a part of positive net change. However you decide that is, and know that that scale can be vast, it can be microscopic, it can be your own place, but what is the net positive that you can do in the place that you're in?
I think, oh yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, I was just going to add really quickly to that. I think part, we're talking about, like your professional, like resume and all of those things. And that working for a nonprofit is not the only way to be engaged in the nonprofit world. And so, like Allie and I serve on Volunteer New Hampshire's board of directors. I serve on another board of directors for a nonprofit in the state. And so if you're thinking about joining a nonprofit or making that switch, I suggest, maybe trying out some like board service. Boards are always looking for really wonderful people who have different sets of skills and backgrounds. And you do have a lot to be able to contribute to those organizations in that way. And I absolutely love being able to serve on the boards that I do. And it helps even build my my work on the daily basis, but it also just is part of that like rewarding experience as well. So I just wanted to highlight that really quickly.
Aaron, such a good point. And this brings up something else that maybe the other panelists, would share as well. That's sometimes I get on my soapbox for talking about it is PAC comes in so many different ways, whether it's locally, highly localized, or global. Just because you have a passion doesn't mean you need to start something new. Here in Charlotte, there are thousands of nonprofits, amazing nonprofits in this community alone. I would argue that some people start their nonprofits without doing research to find out, are there other organizations worthy of my time and support for community service, board membership, whatever that might look like, to build something and help what's already going on and thinking more collaboratively, not competitively. And so again, that's just more of a soapbox comment. But as you think of whether it's volunteering, whether it is a career in the nonprofit community service sector, is really doing the research on what's out there. Where does your passion lie, and how can you make the biggest impact to whatever level that you want? And so then I bring this back to the panelists and thinking of skill sets, right? And skill sets and development. What skills have been most valuable in your journey, and how do you develop them, right? So whether that is from your time with SNHU, from previous jobs, what skills have been valuable on your journey, and how do you develop them to make an impact today in what you do in your current roles and current situations? Daryl, if you don't mind, I'm going to start with you.
Thank you. So, well, first was my parent, my mom. Instead of disciplining us in harsher terms, she would make us read college psychology books. And so she wanted us to study human emotion. She wanted us to understand our behaviors. And at an early age, that is something that we studied. So I would say that was the first skill set that I developed was critical thinking and emotional intelligence, which was important as a Black man. Then I went into the United States Navy, was an air traffic controller. So that's when I learned uh, discipline, details, having people's back despite the fact that they may not like you. But when you're in that uniform and you're across seas, we are the same human being to the other person. So I developed those skills in the military. Then I went and was the IT manager for the U.S. Census Bureau, became a UX designer, a Scrum Master, was battling depression because I love being in IT, but disliked the lack of human contact. I was more on the technical side of the job than the human side, which led to an epiphany where I became a minister because I was on a search for that question, why? A lot of people have that why question, but I ask why and I want to know why. So I was that annoying kid to my mom that was like, why? She's like, stop asking why. No, I need to know why because I want to understand. So I went into theology, dropped out in theology, and went into psychology at Southern New Hampshire. Had the greatest success I've ever had academically at SNHU. And then that's when I developed my skill set in psychology, learning about behaviorisms, management, um, appropriate behavioral modification, because that's a really tough term when you don't say appropriate or positive before it. So These are all skill sets that had to be developed. And then the most important thing, change management, which is the essence of my organization, design thinking and change management. That's how we solve racism. We don't go stand on corners. We don't do the protesting. We work on mindsets deep inside the communities that people won't go into. So that's also a skill set. I go into hoods. I go into communities people won't go into. That's a skill set.
Awesome. Thank you, Daryl. Appreciate that. Allie, what about yourself? Skill sets that are most valuable to your journey, and how did you develop them?
Yeah, no, thank you. I think this is such a good question. It's going to sound really basic, but I think taking the ability to be not just be humble in a situation, but I guess curiosity is so important. I think you have to remain curious in any situation. I also think never forget that you're still learning in any and every situation. And so that to me goes with curiosity. Like, it doesn't matter if you've been in a job for 10 years or 10 minutes, there's so much left to learn. And I see every interaction that I have with folks as an opportunity to learn. And I've had some really great lessons. I've had some very hard ones. And, something that I love to tell some of my colleagues is like, everything is data. Everything you're getting is data. You tried something, it didn't work, that's data. You messed up in an interaction, that's data because it's telling you something. It's telling you what, how to avoid that in the future. And I think just being able to really sit with yourself and learn, even when it's hard and uncomfortable, and willing to sort of internalize and take those new learnings is so important. Yeah, it's basic, but that, and I think being open to where life's going to take you, especially since I know we're talking to students, like to folks who are like going in their career, like you're in your journey, be open, say yes to things when they come your way, even if they seem really out of left field, because life is short, and take those opportunities, try something, what do you have to lose? Oh, Matt, I think you're still muted.
That is correct. It was a test, and you passed. So great advice, Allie. Really appreciate you sharing that. Both to unmute yourself and the rest of the important information that you shared with the group. I would say this: continue to write comments and share reactions as we move forward. But Aaron, for you, you think about skill sets, how you develop them. What would you say to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is just on my mind because I spoke at a leadership program last week. But at the core of all of the work that I do, it's relationships. It's being able to talk to people and engage with them, understand where they're coming from. And so I always encourage people to, really work on that. That is something that, if you asked ninth grade Aaron about presenting tonight, I probably would have like run in the opposite direction and hid underneath my bed. And so, I think through my undergraduate experience, and then being able to do my master's program with SNHU, I stayed really connected with like the student advisory board, and went to the at the time Leeds was in person, and so going to the Leeds conference and kind of pushing myself to practice those skills, because that is not my skill set that I grew up with. And so I always encourage people to continue to push on that. And like as Ali said, you're always learning. I just a few weeks ago, a networking event at they're like a financial institution, very much that like corporate, like fraternity brother, like not my world at all. And, I said, you know what, this could be a great opportunity to engage with people that I don't normally engage with and practice like how I might talk about our organization's work in a very like different setting than what I'm used to. And so, I pushed myself to do that. And I had a great time. Was it a little awkward at first? Probably, but I think it's just important to always be